All right, guys, it's time for the Next Level Guy Show, a men's interview, interest, and improvement-focused podcast featuring interviews with the greats from all industries to help you better your life. Each week, a new episode features an interview with one of the greats, covering all aspects of their story, from life hacks to tips and protocols that have allowed them to live life on the next level. We then highlight concrete action steps that you can use to improve your life. And now, your host, Ian Dawson Mackay.
And today's guest is David Haze. He went from his lowest point in jail to achieving world records and working on prison reform. His story will help you realise that your current state doesn't need to be your end point. You can change your story at any moment you decide. So many of us have lost track of our sense of freedom and passion for adventure, succumbing to the pressures of modern life. We should never let go of our dreams and always strive to gain new experiences and enjoy life for everything it has to offer. After reaching the lowest point in his life, David realised he was distracted from his true values and what made him come alive. He's now on a journey of self-discovery, a quest to take his love for adventure and bringing people together out into the world with the aim to inspire and motivate personal growth. He wants more people to break free, come alive and take that step into the unknown to truly live through adventure, no matter how big or small. If you have a vision, then commit to it. Give it your all and do not let outside factors stop you. The only things that will hold you back in life is yourself, and his whole life he did that, but no longer, and you can do the same too. David wants to live by his own example, which is why he's about to launch his Europe's Untamed Beasts, a first of its kind of SUP adventures. He's also attempting to be the first person to SUP the River Nile and the formidable Skeleton Coast. As he says, through adventure we live, and he's now the proud owner of 7 world records because of it. And in this interview, we discuss how your past doesn't define your future, how you can choose to change your life at any minute, and how you can chase a goal in your own life. And now, let's get to the interview. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm delighted to have somebody like you on, because you've done a complete 180 and changed your life. You know, you've done amazing work. But could you give a quick introduction to people who maybe aren't aware of your name?
Yeah, so my name's David Haze, also known as the Nomadic Paddler. And I am a former prisoner turned paddleboarding world record holder.
Brilliant. And you just completed your 7th world record, which is amazing. Massive congratulations there. And, you know, when you read your story, you think, that can't be the same guy. You know, you went down into sort of deep darkness and then you completely transformed it. And now you're inspiring people, working on prison reform, etc. But could you go into a little bit about, like, how did you start that descent? You know, how did you get into taking drugs, and was it dealing with the stresses and the bad habits of working in finance at the time?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's funny saying that I have done a complete turnaround. I'm not the same person. I don't feel like the same person anymore. But yes, so growing up, I always used to love adventure. Adventure was who I am. I was a national champion sailor. I did Duke of Edinburgh, which is like an outdoor pursuits program here in England. I surfed, everything. I just loved the outdoors. And eventually I moved to London, ended up working in finance. And when I was working in finance, I just completely lost touch of who I was. I didn't know who I was anymore. But I just got so wrapped up in making the money. And I was earning some really good money. I just got wrapped up in this whole London life. Everyone tells you London's, the big city. It's where it all was happening. And moving to London was the biggest mistake I ever made in my life. Eventually I lost my job, and I tried to keep up this facade that I was still earning more, money. So I'd leave or sort of get dressed for work, and I would go gambling and trying to numb the pain, I suppose. I ended up turning to cocaine. So I was sort of feeling a drug habit and a gambling addiction, and it just completely spiraled out of control. And I ended up moving some stolen goods. And I was looking at, the police officer that was involved told me I was going to go to jail for this. And eventually I didn't tell anybody. I got a new job again. I was a business development director for another finance firm, and money was coming in. But I had this court date looming over my head. And eventually when the court date came, I just sort of had a mental breakdown, I suppose, and disappeared for 5 weeks. And in those 5 weeks, I tried to take my life, and, it wasn't successful, thankfully. And I ended up turning to burglary, which ended up putting me in prison.
I mean, it is an amazing story because you completely changed. You went in, you got your life back on track, and now you're working in the prison reform. And, I think that's the thing I'm so keen to have you on is we all hear about these gurus and stuff, and they all come on and say, yeah, just do this, drink this flat tea, and you're going to be amazing. We rarely get to hear about people who've made mistakes and changed. I mean, I've done stupid things, and I'm thankful I never got into serious trouble from it. But there's people there who are thinking, like society almost treats them like second class, if you've been to jail. And I like that where you said about, people see you as a prison number and that's all you can be, but you were adamant that you were going to prove that wrong. And I love that.
That's it, and prison isn't my defining moment in my life, Yeah, we've all made mistakes, some more serious than others, but I'm not going to let that define who I am. And I've experienced the prison system here in the UK, and it's such a broken system. And when I was inside, I sort of made an effort to try and help the guys, get work, get respect and all this. So I thought, coming out, now I'm a free man, let's use the opportunity. First off, let's just reconnect myself, which I do with the adventure. But then the adventure and these world records I do, it gives me a platform to talk and come onto podcasts like I'm doing now, to sort of share my message and share what I'm trying to do. And it's, I've been given a second lease of life, and I'm embracing it and doing what I can to try and improve lives for others.
Because I think that's like a massive first step into it, as they say, a true apology is changed behaviour. And, that's partly why I started the podcast, because I was finding that I wasn't getting the life I wanted. I was drinking, I was just bored at my brain, and, I was going to end up just going down dark holes, I was suffering with depression. And after a few months, I started speaking to people online and got them on interviews. And before you knew it, it's the wealth of information is out there, but there wasn't a podcast that actually helped people go from really bad to really good. And that's what I think we really struggle. We get guys who come out and, like you said, when you lost your job, it was the first real serious failure that you had.
Yeah.
How did you sort of react to that? Why do you think guys, we're almost taught not to share our feelings. We're trained supposedly to be men, to hide our feelings and sort, shit out on our own.
Yeah.
Why? And it's such a dangerous thing to do because it puts all this pressure on us. How did you react when you lost it, and how did you come to terms with it? And, were there red flags that you noticed at that time?
I didn't notice any red flags at the time. Now I look back and I do. But when I was sitting in that prison cell, it gave me a chance to sort of figure out my life, my journey and everything. And I haven't been dealt the worst cards in life. I haven't been dealt the best cards in life. And, I went to boarding school, and boarding school gave me so many opportunities. It was great. But one thing boarding school never taught me was how to deal with failure. You're sort of wrapped up in cotton wool and just everything sort of given to you, something, an opportunity comes to you and they give it to you. And I remember going to London, my family, I never had to rely on my family in my life because I was at boarding school. And that first failure, when I lost my job, was my first biggest failure I ever had to deal with in life. I've come along so far, and my family was so proud of me, and I just didn't know how to deal with failure though. That's the only thing. I didn't know how to go and ask for help. I was too proud to ask for help. But what I have learned since then, the bravest, but also the most scariest thing you can ever do in your life is just ask for help. It's such a little simple action, but if you ask for help, which I have done now, and it completely changes your life. But I never knew what to do with failure, and that's how my life just went completely, turned around, and I ended up in prison.
Because it takes a certain size of testicles to say I need help. I took forever to do it when I had to go to the doctor and get put on antidepressants and stuff. And that's why I was so keen to get you on, because you're so open and honest and vulnerable about your story, and you really just don't sugarcoat it. You've said to people you can make mistakes, but it doesn't define you. And that's what I wanted a lot of young people to know is they're not a number just because they've been inside or they've been in trouble. that you can completely change your life. I mean, I don't feel the same person that I was 10, 15 years ago. And I'm sure a lot of people are like that, but they're still letting something stupid they did in their past, if it's criminal, fighting, drinking, whatever it is, define them and probably ruin their lives just now. And that's why I wanted to have you on, was you give an amazing story, but show people it can be done and you can go on to do amazing things. So you said when you lost your job, you were still putting the suit on, going out and trying that lifestyle, going out and gambling and making money. Was that the same sort of thing that you thought you could hide it and fix it on your own?
Yeah, 100%. So I was I was going gambling. I was trying to find more work, but I was just getting so engrossed with the drugs, so engrossed with the gambling that my life was just spiraling out of control. And if I took that step back and just looked at the situation, it was only going to end up in one way and it wasn't going to be good. And eventually when I did get caught and everything, it was just a massive weight lifted off my shoulders. But I was just going down this dark hole, this horrible hole. And, I look back at it now and it's a horrible time in my life. But sort of going on to prison, it's one of my biggest failures in life, but I'm just sort of determined to make my biggest failure in life become my biggest success. And that's sort of what I'm trying to do now.
No, it is amazing. I was just reading your story, I was like, this guy's amazing. And then when I've seen that you were working in the prison reform and you were actually trying to fix the broken system to give people who are coming out a better second chance, to kind of helping them along. Because you look at the mental health, pandemic we've got, you look at the COVID situation, there's not a lot of situation where people can get to see people and ask for support, ask for the services they need. And, you mentioned you didn't talk to anyone about the interactions with the police. Was there anybody there that you could sort of relate to? Did you have anybody that you could kind of bounce ideas off, or were you just trying to deal with it yourself?
Sorry, yeah, I was gonna say I just tried to deal with it myself. There was no. However, there was plenty of people there. My family, everybody. If I just went and spoke to my family, even my girlfriend at the time, they would have supported me. They might not financially supported me, but they would have helped me sit down and think of the positive solution, not the solution that resulted in gambling and drugs. And I think that's what it is. There are so many people around us that, love us and support us. And even those people who are unfortunate that don't have family and friends, you come across a lot of these people in the prison system. There's still plenty of people out there who will be willing to listen to you and help you and support you.
That's a great message. And I think that's the problem, is we start taking so much shit on ourselves that we forget that, we can go and ask for help, that there is people, no matter where, churches, charity groups who are willing to help and will go out their way to help. And I think we forget because we think, stiff upper lip, we've got to be brave, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. And it's for messed up men, because we've told them to be masculine. It means being tough, and it doesn't really. But it's taken that away, that option to admit you've got. I don't know if you've seen that on Instagram. People were saying that they had no one to speak to. They were saying, who do you go to and speak to about your problems? And they're like, I'm a man, I'm not allowed to. I've got to keep it to myself. And I just thought that was terrifying. So what was you mentioned about contemplating suicide. I've been down that dark hole, and I know how difficult it is to come out. What stopped you at the time, and what made you? And what advice would you give to people who are going through similar, who think, that what they've done they can't live on? Because mine was just I had intrusive thoughts, I had OCD, I was just end of the world. What advice could you give to people who are in that situation now?
Yeah, I was just looking for that easy way out, and I sort of convinced myself that, because I'd be on this run from the police, I'd convinced myself that my family had moved on. And it's when finally the time that, I resurfaced, and I spoke to my family, I realised, of course they didn't, they hadn't moved on, they would never have moved on. And I think, just whatever situation is, it doesn't matter how bad it is, it always only get better. And you've just got to sort of own the situation you're in. Doesn't matter how bad it is. For me, it was going to jail and, and all that. And I was just own it. I had to own it and take the opportunity to learn about myself, to then try and grow and change as a person, to go and make sure I live a much more meaningful life. But, we all go through bad times in our life, but, it's always those good times will always come back again. You're always learn about yourself. You always grow as an individual. Like, just hold on there and always remember, like we just said, there's always going to be support from somebody. You know, the support in the most unlikely places. Nobody wants to see anybody take their own life. And, you know, I've certainly don't. And I'm so glad that I didn't take my own life because, you know, I'm so proud of what I'm doing right now. And I'm living the life that I suppose I was always meant to live.
And you should be proud of what you've achieved. You know, you're doing amazing things. You're inspiring so many people, and you're also giving people who are maybe hitting their own like streak of shit, shall we say? You know, and going, there is an option to change. You don't need to be. You know, what's it they say? Your past doesn't need to be your future. You know, you can change it. And, you know, I like that comment you said when in another interview you were talking about it being like a pressure cooker. You just felt it building and building, and when you've got nowhere to go, you start thinking the worst, don't you? You start looking, going, oh no, there's no way out of this. I'm worthless, I'm this, I'm that. And we then don't have like a healthy, like a lot of people don't have access to sporting facilities. A lot of people don't have access to other men that they can chat to or other groups they can chat to. And it's a scary situation for a lot of people. But what was your first or most striking memory of prison? You know, what was it that you remember that like the toughest part of it?
Yeah, I think the first thing, I suppose, is back to this masculinity thing. So I got my sentence. I'm in the prison van. I'm heading off to HMP Guys Marsh, which is South London, and I was just crying all the way in tears. And like the moment sort of the door unlocked to go into reception, I started to wipe away the tears. And like, you know, I got to man up now. I can't be let people see me do this. You know, it's a prison. It's full of, you know, men. You know, you hear about these stories. It's the worst of the worst. And I sort of wiped those tears away. But the one thing that always stuck with me was the smell. Like, I can never explain to anybody the smell, but it was just like a rotten, dirty, disgusting smell, and that would always stay with me. And it's just hard to explain, but that was it. And the noise, it was so loud, like echoing the music from different people, the shouting, the screaming. Like, there was a lot of anger, a lot of pain, and a lot of upset in that place. And yeah, and you know, I wouldn't wish anyone to go to prison. But for me, you know, it was needed, but yeah, it was the smells and the masculinity, I suppose.
Because that's something in it. It's like you put a bunch of people who struggle to discuss stuff, who've done bad things, who are maybe wanting to change and stuff, but they put them in a situation where you're just locked up. And a lot of people I know who've like been to jail, a lot of people have been in trouble before, they said there's not a lot of rehabilitation offered. You know, it's just a case of more walls, more doors, more bars. You know, it's just, there's not much to actually encourage you to go and like get qualifications and fix it. And I don't know if that's like a sort of standard approach. How did it change, like being sentenced? How did it change your relationship with friends, family? And was there any kind of offer to like rehabilitation, or, you know, if somebody wanted to change their life, was that supported?
No, I mean, rehabilitation doesn't exist inside. It really doesn't. And if you want to rehabilitate yourself, you have to be quite a proactive individual. And, you know, a lot of these guys, you know, they've been in and out of prison most of their life. They've come from care homes. They've never had opportunities given to them. And like most of their life as well, a lot of these guys have just been told they're worthless. So they think they're worthless, and, you know, why bother changing myself is probably, you know, is their mindset. So like eventually when I sorted myself out inside, I could see there's so much talent in prison. There's so many guys that, you know, they shouldn't have gone down the wrong path. They haven't got the help they needed. So I ended up writing to a lot of companies. When I was inside, I used to write CVs for the lads, and I'd write to a company saying that, you know, this guy's in prison, he's getting released back to your area. It'd be amazing if you could give them an opportunity. And you know what? The response I got was fantastic. So I got the Body Shop involved, Sainsbury's were interested, B&Q, Lush, Dorset Tea Company. All these companies were right back to me going, all right, when this guy's out, get in contact with us. And I just really wanted to help the guys. The prison doesn't seem too bothered to help people. And when I came out, I sort of made a vow, like, now I'm a free man. Now I have no limitations. I'm going to try and support the guys, the girls, as much as I can to get them into work, to help them change their lives. But one thing I noticed is, so as I was saying, like, this a certain individual being in prison like 11 times, and whole life he's been told he's rubbish. And the moment you speak to that person as an individual, respect them, suddenly their life changes. Suddenly they've been shown respect, and they're like, oh, actually, I'm not worthless, am I? And that changes their whole mindset. Suddenly that person's then going to take that journey to change and to grow and to rehabilitate. And that's all it takes. It just takes to treat everybody as an individual. Going to prison, having your freedom taken away and your family and your life, that's the punishment, and that's where it should stop. It's all then about teaching these people to grow and change, and that's what prison should be doing. It doesn't.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I was smiling through that because I felt like you could feel the passion you have for helping people change, and to even just take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to write a CV for somebody, to say, let's try find you a job. To somebody who's been in and out of trouble the whole time, that must be like, why are you doing this? Why do you think I'm worthwhile? And like a lot of times where if you're quiet in school, you're just left alone. If you're a troublemaker in school, you get kicked out. Just go find a job and get on with it. We very rarely try to come to the crux of the situation of what's causing the problems. But when you were released initially, you started using again and went back in. What was it that you think caused that? What stopped you changing initially? And, what was causing that? Was it going back to old habits, or was there something at the time that you didn't have a mission or a challenge to change your life, do you think?
I was too determined to go and earn money again and get my life back on track. I come from London, I was earning this good money, and I never really took the opportunity to learn who I was. So as you said, I got a toxic relationship. We split up. I spent all my company's money. I started my own company, went to drugs, and ended up burglary. And when I was in prison again, I was like, how am I here again? Like, it's just said, I've gone to university. I've got a degree. I went to private school, boarding school. I'm like, how am I here for burglary? And I just took that opportunity just to learn who I was, learn about my red flags, my green flags, take it as an opportunity to grow. And as I said from, earlier on, just ask for help, utilize the support that was around me. There isn't much, but it's there if you look for it. And one of the changing moments was when I met a woman called Dr. Sarah Lewis, who owns Penal Reform Solutions. And I was loving the work that she was doing in prison and creating these growth rehab cultures within prisons. And I sort of started working for her, started making a difference. And she's my boss now. I've been out for nearly 2 years, and I work for her full time now, working with people that have experienced the criminal justice system, working with children that sort of going down the wrong path. And that she was just, the inspiration to help me change and realizing there's so much more to life.
That's awesome. What was that point then that made you think enough was enough? Was there that moment, a defining moment, or was it just gradually building and building each time you kind of looked around? Was there a moment that you can sort of attribute to that? Enough's enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's the second time I went into a really dark place, as you can imagine. I lost a lot of friends, on the verge of losing my family. And, eventually I sort of came out the dark hole and, I was sort of reconnecting myself. I remember reading a lot of self-help books, trying to figure out how my mind works and all this. And that turning point for me was when I met Sarah, my boss. And it was just the way she embraced growth, hope, change, and the way she saw us. Like, she saw me as an individual. She spoke to me as an individual. And she just made me see my own self-worth. And that's when I knew, that I am much more than prison. I am much more than my prison sentence. And that's when I sort of really ramped everything up and started to change and learn who I am. And, and I'm still on this sort of journey of self-discovery now, and I'll always be on it. And this is why I undertake the adventures that I do. I go out on the water, I push myself beyond the boundaries and limits that I thought possible. And I just reconnect with the raw me, and that's what I sort of want more people to do, realizing your full potential, really.
Because it blows me away like that, how you can be so open and honest about it, but you give such inspiring advice as well, and you're showing people that you're like an example of somebody that can do this. and you care about somebody. And I think a lot of guys who are in trouble don't have that. And, you know, I think that's the problem is a lot of people hear prison, you know, ex-convict, whatever, and, you know, they have that stigma and people think, oh, well, you know, we have this kind of snooty attitude. You know, like a lot of people do bad things, don't get caught. But, you know, I love that message that you said that, you know, you're a prison number then, and you're not, people will say you're always going to be a prison number, but that's bollocks. What do you think, you know, we don't allow hope to people that they can change, that their past doesn't define their future? Why do we treat people like that? You know, why don't we say it like, you know, you've done the punishment, you've admitted your fault, you move on. Why do?
I don't know. It's a weird one because there's so many. We're slowly getting there. Like there are so many companies now that have they're called ban the box organisations. So like when you fill out a application form for a company, usually you'd have you got a criminal record, your ticket. But a lot of companies are now removing that, so everybody's got an equal opportunity for the interview. Once you get the job, you're then meant to declare, you know, you've got a criminal record. But something that I really, you know, part of the thing I do is try and change these perspectives. And like a few examples I have, like there's probably a lot of old dears and old boys who, you know, they're like, you've been to prison, you're a criminal, you're always a criminal. But I can imagine they would sit there at home, watch Stephen Fry documentaries and David Dickinson programs. Mm-hmm. And these people probably don't know that Stephen Fry and David Dickinson have both been to prison. You know, there's so many famous people out there that they probably don't realise that these guys have actually been to jail. Mark Wahlberg's another one. Tom Hardy. Like, there's so many famous people who've gone on to change their lives and do good stuff. And like, it can happen. We just need to support people. If we want to create these harmonious environments, these safe environments, then we all need to come together and support somebody. And I did an interview ages ago with The One Show, and who is it? Judge Rinder was one of their guest panels. And they sort of turned to him and was like, what do you think about prison reform, rehabilitation? He's like, it's amazing, you know, and I think we need to push it more. He said, at the end of the day, these people are going to come out of prison and they're going to be your next door neighbour. Now, do you want that person to be reformed and changed or not? Because at the end of the day, he's going to be your next door neighbour. And I thought, that's it. Like, you know, we are coming out. And I look back and I think to my victims, like, what do my victims want? Do they want me to, now I'm a free man, do they want me to suffer and, you know, and suffering will probably end up resulting back into crime, or do they want me to carry on and do some good with my life? And I think everybody wants these people to do some good, and the only way we can do that is to support them.
No, it's a great message, and I really like that, her outlook. It's, you know, because there's so many people who, it's almost like, you know, they think their shit doesn't stink, you know, that they've never done anything bad. And, you know, if you Google, like on YouTube, honestly, if you go onto YouTube, you know, and you look and you see the number of celebrities who've been to jail or something, you know, it's phenomenal. And if we stopped every person who's done a bad thing going and doing something else, you know, and just said, nope, that's it, you're ruined, go and live in the nomads, there wouldn't be a society. Everybody makes mistakes, everybody fails, everybody does something bad, and, you know, it shouldn't define them.
That is, and it's like, I mean, you know, people might not, a speeding ticket, you broke the law, like at the end of the day, that's you breaking the law. Parking ticket, you broke the law, you weren't allowed to park. Obviously, you know, from what I've done for speeding tickets, completely different, you know, different ends of scales, but you've still broken the law. You know, breaking the law is breaking the law. But, you know, you speed and then suddenly you end up accidentally hitting somebody, then that puts you into prison. Like this, you know, you just got to be careful. Too many speeding tickets will put you into prison. And, like, you know, I'm sure there's some people that, you know, haven't broken the law in the slightest, but we've all done it, I think, to a certain way. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we need to help and support. And sort of, you know, a lot of people need to get off the high horses, I guess, and, you know, help these individuals.
Because that's the thing, is people say, oh, they need to go to jail, but then what do you do once that they've served that length of time? You know, you don't want them to go back in again and have to be arrested again and, you know, all that kind of jazz. You want them to have something. You want to give them, like, you know, like a lot of people who are alcoholics, for example, there's always a reason for it. And there's a lot of times that they want to change, but they don't know how. They need the medical assistance. Same with drug addicts, a lot of times, but they do want to change. I mean, you're always going to get some arseholes in every part of society. But there's always going to be, you know.
I was going to say, I like what you just said there, because nobody, I'd say 95% of those people in prison didn't wake up and gone, you know what, I'm going to commit a crime. And I'd say 95% of the individuals in there is a story and a reason behind it, why they committed the crime. Like there's, I'm sure 5%, as you said, are just assholes, and I met some of them. But nobody generally wakes up that morning and goes, you know what, I'm going to go and burgle a house for the fun of it. You know, there's a reason behind the burglary. For me, it was a form of survival, and like, you know, I completely regret what I did, but nobody just wakes up and commits a crime, and it's just trying to get down to the bottom why they did that.
I think that's what we need to spend more time and effort into, is like the services and support to stop people falling into that. Because you said, failing doesn't make you a failure. It just makes you someone who's failed, and you just need to embrace the failure, grow and change your ways and come back stronger.
That's it.
And, you know, and you started that change, you know, and you've been out for 2 years, you've done these amazing things, you got a job, you're working on the prison reform, you're supporting people who need it. How did you make sure you didn't slip back? What kind of habits did you change to kind of ensure, you know, working towards the new David? Just
being open and honest, and like that was the main thing, and just keep utilizing the support that's around me. You know, I not just going through the world on my own and taking up all the problems and woes. And like, you know, I got my family back, so if I ever have troubles, I got my boss Sarah, I've got my girlfriend, I've got my work colleagues. You know, if I start struggling, then, you know, I just be open and honest. But for me, adventure and paddleboarding is what's changed my life, and that's what gives me purpose and drive. So sort of just planning the next adventure and undertaking adventures, that's what keeps me going. And I suppose that's my healthy vice in life. You know, it's move away. If you know, alcohol and drug people use as a vice. For me, paddleboarding is my vice, and you know, there's nothing wrong with paddleboarding. There's no negatives about it. And I think, you know, just trying to find a healthy vice, something that gives you that purpose and drive, and keep going.
No, you should be super proud of yourself for what you've done, because it is an amazing achievement. I mean, I've seen people who are just, you know, everybody goes, oh, he's a bad kid, because they're constantly getting in petty trouble and stuff. And you think, no, it's just somebody that hasn't got somebody to look out for them or to assist them. And I know everybody says we should be looking after ourselves and that, but that's bullshit. You know, we're in a community where we should be helping people change their lives and, you know, give back and help people. And that's partly why I wanted to start like the podcast, because I knew there were people like me who didn't know how to go out and ask for help, or didn't know who to speak to, or, you know, who maybe weren't getting in trouble, or like, you know, who maybe had done some bad, hadn't been caught, or whatever it was, but were at that point of hating themselves and thinking, I'm a failure, I'm this, I'm that, so why don't I just go out and steal or whatever. And I think that's the thing, is we need to make people change the perspective that their history isn't their future, that they can change, that there is help there. So, you know, when you look back, do you struggle at all with it? Do you deal with any regrets? How did you come to peace with the mistakes and not let them rule your life? Because I think that's a big thing I've noticed. I've had people on who have said, you know, that they really still struggle with what happened in the past.
Yeah.
Do you ever come to terms with it, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I absolutely hate what I did. You know, my terms of burglary is not a nice crime. But I mean, at the end of the day, the past is the past. I can't change that anymore. And it's, you know, it is there. It's just, it's now what I do with my life to sort of move away from that, I suppose, to give back. And that's, you know, that's what I'm trying to do. Is like, of course, I regret everything, but I'm using that failure, you know, prison, and I'm turning it around to try and turn it into a success to go on and do better things. And I think that's the only way I can deal with what I've done.
Because I was really impressed when you said you'd found your why, and, you know, that was like a venture in your life. Do you think that's a big problem? Is that for a lot of young men, older men, women as well, we're not being challenged? You know, I love saying, you know, we can order a taxi online, we can order a date online, we can order food online. You know, we've almost lost a sense of focus or purpose in our life. And do you think, you know, because you have a saying that through adventure we live.
Yeah.
You know, can you go into a little bit about that philosophy, and do you think that's what's affecting a lot of young people today, that they don't have adventure?
Yeah, funny enough, like, it's having that why in your life and challenge yourself. Like, as you said, life has just become too suppose too easy. And like, you need to challenge yourself. If you want to grow and change and learn more about yourself as an individual, then you need to challenge yourself. Like, if you just live the normal day-to-day life, through social media and access to easy, just anything really, it isn't challenging. And like, it was quite funny at Christmas, my brother was having a chat with his friend and they want to start a business. And I happened to walk in and my brother was just saying to his mate, like, I'm so proud of David, like what he's done, his world records and all this. And he's like, why, how have you done it? Like, how have we not started our own business? I was like, why do you want to start your own business? He's like, we want to make more money. I was like, that's not a good enough reason. You need to find your why in life. For me, paddleboarding, it gives me purpose, it gives me drive, it makes me understand who I am. And learning who I am makes me a better version of myself. And that's my why. And I think everybody, like from him, like, why does he want money? Like, break it down and find that unique why. And I think we all need to do it. And we all need to challenge ourselves. And that's why I sort of promote the power of adventure, what it can do to an individual.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
That's seriously inspiring. I can see why you're changing so many people's lives and motivating so many people. But why paddleboarding? You said it was like a journey of self-discovery. Do you think it's sport that helps us discover who we are? You almost like get involved with the adventure, the physicality of it. Do you become, it's almost like a primal use of energy, do you think?
I mean, I've always been a sporty individual. I've always lived by the sea. And I used to surf for years and years and years, but down in Bournemouth where I live, those flat days, you just couldn't surf. And one day I remember seeing, about 7 years ago, I saw somebody on a paddleboard and I was like, what's that? So I took to it and I absolutely love the extra sense of freedom it brings, the connection to yourself. And I knew, like, this is me, this is who I am. But, it doesn't have to be pushing yourself physically. I mean, even if I was speaking to a woman not so long ago, and she's like, I've got 2 kids and a husband and all this, so I can't just go out and paddle the longest lakes. I was like, then you should just go away camping with your family. Go and learn to make a fire properly without matches. The 4 of you, sit down, put your phones away. That's an adventure. That's reconnecting with yourselves. You're growing, you're learning, you're connecting with your family, you're creating memories. That's an adventure. It doesn't have to be anything quite extreme. It's just, I think just being outdoors in nature is just, there's something just so peaceful about it. And I think more people just need to, get out there.
It's a great message because so many people are being raised by their phones, which is scary. I mean, I do it myself. I'm thinking, like, I've listened to a podcast and I go, oh, that's a great question for so and so, and then I'm watching YouTube videos, and then as I'm sitting just chilling after work, I'll be sitting on my phone, and you're on the bus on your phone. Before you know it, we've almost forgotten how to speak to each other, how to rely on ourselves and challenge ourselves when we go out. But what on earth made you think, okay, I'm paddleboarding now, I'm reconnecting, I'm finding myself again. I know I'm going to go and try to achieve world records, because that's such a great mindset. But what led you into doing these amazing things?
So the first world record I got was June last year. And I came up with the idea. So I used to get paddleboarding magazines sent to me, and I'd see all these great adventures. And I was like, you know what? When I get out there, I'm going to paddleboard the 4 longest lakes in the UK in 4 consecutive days.
As you do.
Yeah. I remember telling the lads around me whilst in prison, they're like, you're a number, you're always a number, stop daydreaming. It's never going to happen. And that's when I realized that, my prison sentence doesn't define who I am. I am much more than this prison, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to do this. So eventually, after all the lockdown, I came out in the first lockdown. After, lockdowns finished, June 14th came, I was in Scotland, did my first world record. Then I went to England the following day, did that. Then I was in Northern Ireland. And I remember I had a pint of Guinness sitting in Northern Ireland waiting for my ferry, and I was thinking, I've got 3 world records now. I have the most world records, stand-up paddleboarding world records than anybody in the world. I could stop now. There's no need for me to go to Wales. And I was thinking, well, that's how I used to think. You always used to look for an easy way out, And I was like, no, you know what? Go and do it. You said to yourself back in that prison cell, that, surrounded by so much failure and negativity, you told yourself you're going to go out, do four lakes, 4 days. So I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm going out. I don't think like that. I don't look for an easy way out anymore. If I can do it, then I'm doing it. And I went and did the 4th lake, and that was my first 4 world records.
I love that kind of growth, that kind of, I could do that, I could take the easy way out, but no, I am going to go and do this big thing, because, I know a lot of people are listening just now going, but what do I do if I've never been caught? What do I do if I've never been punished for the thing? And I think it's similar, what we're saying to them is, stop letting it define you. You can't change your past, but you can be a better person and go and do something good for the future. And, I think there's a lot of people just now going, like, I can't go and do a challenge like that, but they can do a variation that challenges themselves, that maybe inspires other people, maybe even makes a small amount of money for a charity, like a Tough Mudder or a skydive or whatever it is. There's all these amazing charities you can give back to. I'm a big fan of the Marie Curie Cancer Charity, because they had terminal cancer care nurses for my grandparents when they were dying. And, I jumped out of a plane, which, when I think back, it scared the shit out of me. But I wanted to say thank you for what they'd done. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who, you don't need to go and speak to the police now if it's something silly. You don't need to go and apologise if you can't find the person, whatever. I know a lot of people struggle. I had Dr. Rob Kennedy on, who was an alcoholic, who had lost everything, and then he's come back to start in this addiction centre, and he's changing lives left, right and centre. And that's what he said, is even if you write a letter of apology to somebody, you don't post it, you burn it, but you just let that energy out.
Yeah.
Did you ever try something like that?
So I wrote to all my victims, just like that, if I didn't get a response, then at least I've just, vented it. And like two people wrote back to me, thanking me for the apology and just saying, well done for owning it, and, thank you for explaining why you did it. And he said, just, use your time wisely, and when you come out, to make sure you live a better life. And, I love to sort of meet those two that wrote to me and go, look, hopefully I am living that better life now.
That's amazing. It's like, it just shows you that people will, they might be annoyed at the time, but a lot of people will forgive. It takes a real, amount of stupidity to, really burn the bridges. There will be people who will forgive and forget, or people who help you no matter the situation you're in. But that can seem like an amazing, challenging moment. You met a guy called Cam Stevens during your final sentence, and he really helped you, and you helped each other bond, and, that friendship grew from there. What did that teach you about men, forging friendships, and what can we do if we unite and assist one another rather than tearing ourselves down? What kind of message did that give you?
Yeah, with Cam, we're from 2 different worlds straight off. But there was just something we saw in each other. It was that whole, we're much more than our prison sentence. And it was just nice to talk to somebody with hopes and dreams. Mm-hmm. And funny enough, Cam was on the shoreline when I was in Loch Ness. And it was just such an emotional moment. When we were sitting in these prison cells, we were talking about something like this. And here we were, both in Scotland, both on Loch Ness. He was with his company, we were filming me. I'm there doing my paddleboarding like we discussed. And that was one of the proudest moments in my life. And, I remember sort of having to hold back the tears. I saw my first world record, it was just me and my girlfriend. This last one, it was me, my girlfriend, a film crew, BBC, the press. And I just saw them all. There must have been about, 15 people on the shoreline. And I started breaking up into tears. I was like, no, I can't cry. Come on, don't do this, don't do this. But it was just overwhelming of emotions. I've come so far in less than 2 years, and yeah, it's great. But, you got to have positive role models in your life, people who don't hold you back. And in prison, there are so many people that will shut you down. There is so much negativity. There's only a handful of people that help you grow. And Cam was one of those people who saw something in me. I saw something in him, and we just mate, we're much more than this. And when we're out, we're going to make sure we never come back, but do as much as we can to help other people and help ourselves grow as well.
Because it is something that's difficult. It's to say, you might have to give up a friendship, or you might have to say to somebody that, I can't do X anymore. I can't do Y anymore because it's put me down a dark path that I need to change. I can't go out drinking because I, maybe get in trouble from it, or I can't spend all my time on the internet because, I'm going on the dark web and whatever the kids are doing these days. I don't know. But I can think back and I can see the reasons for all the shitty things I did. And I can see the reasons for shitty things friends have done. But we were there and we never thought too bad of the other person. You were always there to help each other. How did you look at your friendships and stuff? Did you struggle with did you want to lose friends? Did you, when you were changing behaviors?
So, my friends have always been good. I'm the only one sort of my circle that's gone down this path. And I've lost friends, but you feel so ashamed of what you've done that you just don't want to see people anymore. And one of my best friends, Adam, he stuck by me, through the thick and thin, and he just sees me as that boy he met when I was 6 years old. He's like, yes, you messed up, but I'm still your friend. I'm still going to support you. I don't agree with what you've done, but you're still my mate at the end of the day, and I'm so thankful that I've got that friendship. And I've lost friends as well, but it's those. At the end of the day, they weren't true friends if they haven't stuck by me, and I would do the same, not just because I've been into prison, but if the tables are turned and my true friends, I'll stick with them and make sure they know they're supported and loved, because that's what you need in life, isn't it? You need some form of support and love to live a full and rich life.
It's amazing. I love your outlook on it, and I think it's going to help so many people to hear it. But how do you, fair enough, paddleboarding, like my nephews and stuff, they do that. But when you're planning something like, I'm going to paddle the largest lakes I can find, I'm going to do, I'm going to go and try achieve challenge after challenge. How do you break it down into your goal for it? How do you plan nutrition? How do you make it manageable? Because even just people changing their lives might seem like a massive goal. How would you start breaking down a massive step like that?
When I first came out, I started working cleaning solar panels. So I was my mentality's completely changed. I've gone from trading, hundreds of thousands of pounds for clients to cleaning solar panels. But I was happy doing that. But the reason I was happy doing the solar panels was because I had a goal. That was the paddleboard. And I think no matter what work you do, as long as you have a goal in mind that, your work's paying for it, it's great. But that's what gave me the focus. So all those downtimes, especially during the lockdown, there's a lot of time on your own. I started training more. I was watching videos, reaching out to people, learning about nutrition, learning different exercises. But I'm in a fortunate position now that, as I've done more and more, a lot more people seem to want to work with me, and a lot of companies are reaching out. But it always had to start with somewhere, and it was just that first goal, that first dream I had, where I was decided to paddle those 4 lakes. And I cleaned solar panels, 12 to 15 hours a day, 5 days a week, to make sure that I could put enough money in the pot to then go and travel the UK and paddleboard 4 longest lakes.
That's awesome, and I love that. You're challenging yourself. It's finding that adventure. It's like an adventure you'll truly live. What advice would you give to people who are maybe going down a similar path that you were, or who've gone down the wrong path and want to change their lives?
I think anyone's gone down the wrong path or is going down the wrong path, just admit to yourself that it's going wrong. Admit that it has gone wrong. And just own it. Doesn't matter if, for me, I was sitting in the prison cell. Own the fact that you're in prison, mate. Own it. Now it's time to change. And I think that's what you need to do. It's just own it, but then want to change. Be willing to open yourself up to any support and help. If the only person that's in control of your own destiny in life is yourself. Nobody else is going to change you, so don't rely on other people. But take the support and help, but be willing to change. And I think, it's taken me a long time to realize that, but, at the end of the day, we're the only ones in charge of where we go. I'll go to prison. If I went to prison again, life for my family, life for my friends carries on. They're still creating memories, and it's well, I'm in prison. who have I got to blame? I'm only got myself to blame. I think you just got to own it and be willing to change and, take control of your own destiny.
Fuck, I can see how you're changing lives, because that's so inspiring and it's so great because you're not just one of these people who talks about it and never have done it. You've actually been there, so you understand where they're going, where their mindset goes, and I can, you should be massive and change. And I'm going to direct so many people to your information, to your site, because I think we need more people like you out in the world. But how would you like to see prison and, the criminal justice system? I know this is a massive question, but how would you like to see it reformed to change people leaving and, make them less likely to recommit and truly change their lives?
I think the first one, one of the big projects I did when I was working with Dr. Sarah Lewis was around mental health and people experience it in the criminal justice system. And the first thing that came, our recommendation, was just to treat people as individuals. Don't see them as prison numbers. Just show a little bit of respect, and that will massively just change people's outlook. And it was just such a simple little act like that. The government pumps hundreds of millions of pounds into the criminal justice system, and it's just about respect. Just show a little bit of respect to these individuals, see them as an individual, and that'll be the start of the change. You're just a number. You lock behind the door. These prison staff, they come, and don't get me wrong, the prison staff get a lot of shit, I suppose, thrown at them for the wage that they get. But if there was just respect on every side, then I imagine we would create just such a nicer environment inside for these people to change, so they come out, and then we can create this safer communities and reduce the reoffending rate. I think we're 75% in this country. You go over to Norway, where it's 20%. It's they've created these growth hubs, I suppose, over there, and it works. Over here, it doesn't work.
Could you see that, don't you? As people will say, oh, they don't deserve to have TVs, they don't deserve to this and that, and you're thinking, but all you're doing then is making people feel worthless, and when they come out, they then have grudges and they think they need to go do things. So instead, let's, give them the encouragement to try, education, give them encouragement to try things, or actually feel the value, and show them that there's better ways to do it. Because like you're saying, there's other countries that do this, and they offer work when they come out. They offer all these kind of assistance. I don't know why we can't do that.
Yeah, that's it. You look at the Spanish system, the French, the Italian, the Scandinavian, the German, the Danish. They're all their reoffending rate's so low and their rehabilitation's great, but our society doesn't want it, doesn't allow it. They just punishment. It's like Boris Johnson, I think it was last year, said, he was all pro rehabilitation. Then he's then creating more prisons to open up another 10,000 prison spaces. Do you want more people in prison, or do you want to rehabilitate, put less in? Which is it? And I was like, I don't think our society is quite there yet, but we're slowly moving in that direction, but we've still got a lot of work to do.
Well, look at America. It's almost like a business. She makes them money to send people away. And we're almost in that way sometimes. It's people are not getting paid enough to kind of care enough. So they kind of just think, if I treat somebody bad, what are they going to do? They're in jail. And, we pass this kind of negativity around. And it's something I've noticed. It's I've interviewed a lot of people, a lot of them who have done bad things and changed their lives and helped others, and they're changing lives. But if I held back on something stupid they've said, or something bad they've done, or even myself or a friend and that, we would never speak to anybody. And that's why I'm so keen to have you on, because you're doing amazing work, and you're changing people, and you're encouraging them, and you're actually giving back to society. But I know we're way over our time, and I'm so proud to have you on and to feature somebody like yourself. And I wish you nothing but the best for success in the future. But what do you want people to take from this? What do you want them to see as a message from this interview?
I think just support everybody. Everybody needs help. It doesn't matter if they've been to prison or not to be prison. Don't judge. But I think for individuals, I think don't let your past, define you. It doesn't matter if you've been to prison or anything. Live in the now. Just reconnect with yourself and enjoy life. Life is to enjoy, and it took me a little while to realise that. But just go out there and enjoy it, embrace it.
Love it. And how can people keep in touch with you? And how can we, see the next insane challenges you're doing? How can we get out of our own comfort zones and kind of be inspired by you and, follow you on social media and things like that?
Yeah, so if all my social media is at Nomadic Paddler, and my next challenge, in May, I'm off across Europe. I'm attempting 33 world records on 33 of the longest lakes in Europe in 66 days.
Jeez. And how are you feeling towards that? How's your preparation going? Are you, I know you're going to smash it, but are you nervous at all, or?
No, I mean, not at the moment, but what happens is when it gets closer is when I start getting nervous. At the moment, everything's fine, but it will, and it's great. We're making a documentary around it as well. I've got a book deal, and I've come so far in these 2 years, and just keep doing the work that I'm doing. And, yeah, it's great.
And how do you deal with that, like that fear, that nerves that come, or do you just use it as kind of, this is me, this is the new me, this is just reminding me of the changes, and you look back as a kind of the nerves or it's almost like excitement.
It is excitement, and every time I take one of these endurance events on, I'm always wanting to quit when I'm out in the water, constantly wanting to quit. And I've just sort of learnt skills and developed this mindset to shut those voices down. Those voices, the voices that got me into prison. And they're still there, it's still like, just look for the easy way out, you quit, you're not as good as you think you are. But I've just learned these mechanisms to shut them down. And that's when I know I've changed, because when I'm off the water, if I come across any difficulties, I know I can overcome them because I've pushed myself through hell on the water and learnt skills to deal with these.
Well, that's it for another week, and thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.